You're listening to DC Tourism was already struggling. Then the National Guard arrived, a news story written by Andrea Sachs and Federica Coco, and read by an AI-generated voice. Condon Arciniega was not giving up on summer. The chief operating officer of Tours by Foot had seen the company suffer setbacks in multiple cities, including DC. The weather swung between sweltering hot and soaking wet. A decline in international tourism reduced the usual number of visitors. A tepid economy limited spending. But Arciniega was hopeful for one last hurrah in the final weeks of school vacation. Then, on August 11th, President Donald Trump deployed the National Guard in the capital city. Hundreds of troops rolled in and fanned out in tourist areas such as the National Mall and Union Station. It has been a marked downturn since the National Guard showed up, said Arciniega, who has been canceling one or two of the 8 to 10 walking tours scheduled each day because of a lack of bookings. So, timing-wise, it could be one of the major factors. By several key indicators, marketing forecasts, street-level foot traffic, hotel occupancy, Washington's tourism economy is sliding. Analysts cite the city's battered image and mounting fears about security as key drivers. The sight of National Guard troops now authorized to carry weapons could further chill demand at a time when the industry can least afford it. After the doldrums of the pandemic, Washington tourism was looking brighter. In 2024, the city welcomed 27.2 million people, 2.1 million more than in 2019, according to Destination DC, the city's marketing organization. This year, the businesses that depend on visitor spending hit one obstacle after another: widespread federal layoffs, lower attendance than expected at World Pride, and most recently, Trump's characterization of the district as a city riddled with crime and gangs. The weak federal forces dispersed across the capital. Foot traffic in DC dropped 7% on average, according to Pass_By, which creates estimates by pooling anonymized data from sources such as mobile devices, sensors, cameras, and purchases. Restaurant reservations saw an even steeper drop. Tourism Economics, a data partner for Destination DC, had forecast a roughly 5% dip in international visitors this year. The prediction was made on June 22nd, weeks before the federal takeover. Speaking at Destination DC's annual Marketing Outlook meeting Tuesday, President and CEO Elliot Ferguson expressed frustration with the images the White House has broadcast to the world. Ferguson said news has affected public perceptions of the city before: the 9/11's terrorist attacks, the anthrax scare, the sniper shootings in 2002, multiple government shutdowns, and the January 6th, 2021 insurrection, which overlap with the coronavirus pandemic. But Trump's rhetoric adds a different element. The leader of our country, in our backyard, is giving a false sense of what Washington has to offer as a city, Ferguson said to a crowd of local business and tourism professionals. Data compiled by DC police showed that total violent crime in the city hit a 30-year low last year. Congress is investigating whether those numbers were manipulated, the Washington Post has reported. Tourism specialists are especially worried about hemorrhaging even more foreign visitors who typically stay longer, 4.7 nights versus 2.3 nights on average, and spend more, $1,422 versus $333, than domestic visitors. People need to feel safe and know they can have a good experience that is not going to be impeded by things that make them feel uncomfortable. Ferguson said in an interview after the event, "That's a huge part of what we're going to focus on." To counter the negative messaging, Destination DC produced a video called "We the People," starring a diverse group of residents smitten with their city. Created before the takeover, the Valentine to DC is more relevant today than it was a few weeks ago. Mixed reaction to troops? In DC this month, visitors roaming the city could encounter troops in camouflage fatigues. This week, Trump put some of them on trash pickup and landscaping duty. There's also a chance of running into immigration and customs enforcement agents who are apprehending people off the street. For more than 4 decades, Chakitan Dev, a professor at Cornell University's Nolan School of Hotel Administration, has tracked hospitality surveys on what makes a destination appealing. Safety and security are often the top attribute, he said. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Dev pointed out, safety comes second after physiological needs, which include air, water, food, and shelter, whether it applies to life or to tourism. Last weekend, female hockey players from multiple states were celebrating a tournament win with hot dogs from a food truck on the National Mall, dressed in matching Hawaiian shirts and yellow baseball caps. The athletes said they didn't feel threatened or protected by the soldiers in the national park. Unsettled, yes, and sorry for them too. It is definitely a weird vibe of just going about your business to get a hot dog. There are military people everywhere you look, aimlessly walking around, said Alana Sipura, the sole local resident in the group of 6. I feel kind of bad for them, because they're probably really hot. Andrea and Norman Calix, a married couple from the Dallas area, were visiting for a Cradle of Democracy tour of the East Coast. They started in D.C. with the landmarks on the National Mall, before going to Philadelphia to see the Liberty Bell, and New York to visit the 9/11 Memorial. A few days before departing, Andrea learned about the troops and grew concerned. I was scared and almost canceled the trip, she said. They overcame their reservations and flew to D.C. We will enjoy ourselves, but we're prepared, Norman said, reaching into his backpack and wallet to reveal a U.S. passport book and card. Born in El Salvador, he immigrated to the States as a child. Though a U.S. citizen, he is wary of ICE. Alejandro Buxton, the 15-year-old founder of Smell of Love, spends many weekends selling his homemade candles at markets around the D.C. area. He has noticed lighter foot traffic and lower energy levels in once vibrant shopping destinations, such as Eastern Market. At the Southeast site, his August sales have plummeted since last month, which he attributes to tariffs, inflation, and the presence of National Guard forces. Buxton said the troops make D.C. feel like a city under lockdown. It's like people are afraid to come out and shop, the Virginia high school sophomore said by email. Compared with 2024, most D.C. neighborhoods saw fewer people on their streets this summer, according to Pass Underscore by data. Entertainment and shopping quarters were hit especially hard from June through August. Arquiniega said she has heard from out-of-towners that they are shying away from D.C. because of concerns about high crime, not because of the National Guard. In fact, some tourgoers view the soldiers as simply another D.C. attraction. One family was excited to recognize a troop from their home state. The tourists generally are like, "Oh, cool, let's take a picture with them," she said. On Sunday afternoon, Patricia and John McWhorter, a mother and son, strolled the National Mall. The pair had seen 2 National Guard members by a metro station. Patricia, who was visiting from Miami, said she always worried about her child, a lawyer and musician living in the D.C. area. Additional security was comforting, she said. "I have 3 sons, 2 at home and him here, so I will worry regardless," Patricia said. "Anything that makes the city a little bit more secure, I'm grateful for." Challenging year ahead. Despite the sobering statistics that Destination DC presented Tuesday, the organization tried to create an upbeat atmosphere. Many attendees appeared to be dressed for a garden party instead of a morning meeting with charts and graphs. DuPont Brass, a local ensemble heavy on the horns, turned the Southeast venue into a dance hall. Ferguson appeared in a video spoofing Love is Blind, the reality show that filmed its 7th season in the DC area. He was also candid. He informed the crowd that 41 groups had decided against holding their conferences in DC next year. The meetings could have generated $54.4 million for the city, according to Destination DC. He admitted that 2026 will be challenging, alluded to a drastic cut in the organization's marketing budget, and acknowledged the difficulty of formulating a 5-year plan. COVID should have taught us an invaluable lesson about what we thought would happen versus what actually does happen, he told 2 Post reporters after the event. Hopefully the disruptors are short-term, but we always have to have a plan to deal with the anticipated disruptors, whatever they are. Tourism makes up a modest slice of Washington's economy, including arts, recreation, restaurants, and hotels. That category made up about 4.2% of the city's gross domestic product in 2023, compared with the federal government's commanding 30.8% slice of the local economy, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Still, DC tourism revenue runs slightly above the national average and ranks high nationally in performing arts, museums, and accommodations. Across the country, other cities are confronting similar headwinds. DC can take solace in the fact that it is not alone, nor is it the worst off. Nationwide, the number of international visitors was down 2.4% in the first 7 months of this year compared with 2024, and 11.4% below 2019 figures, according to Tourism Economics. After Trump toyed with the idea of turning Canada, the largest foreign market for U.S. destinations, into the 51st state, the country turned a cold shoulder to its southern neighbor. Through July, the number of Canadians entering the United States by land has fallen by 30% compared with last year. Air arrivals have declined by 14%. We have an office in Canada. We're probably not going to spend money in Canada, Ferguson said. By the way, Canada, Destination DC does want DC to be the 51st state. More than 20 new or renovated hotels are in the city's pipeline. Ferguson told the marketing audience. The number of rooms in the city will grow by more than 3,000. Great if you have guests clamoring for the beds, but DC doesn't. Vendors and event organizers frequently cite uncertainty in political climate as reasons for cancellations and postponements. Jonathan Robledo, director of sales at Encore, which stages corporate and government events at local hotels, said clients are booking much closer to their event dates, sometimes just a month in advance, rather than a year out. Hotels have been lowering rates to keep visitors coming, but the outlook is dim. Even with the planned celebrations for the nation's 250th anniversary next year, DC is projecting a 2% decline in revenue per room compared with 2025, while the national hotel industry expects flat growth. Marriott, in a note to investors on August 5th, said government demand had weakened and smaller business customers were pulling back, leading to a 1.5% decline in revenue per room compared with a year earlier. Meade Atkinson, regional director of operations at Sonesta Hotels and Resorts, said his 2 DC properties used to entice prospective guests with the city's world-class museums, neighborhoods, music, and food. Now, they emphasize the lower crime rate. A lot of the messaging is trying to give the real facts, unfortunately, Atkinson said. Arcaniega, the tour guide, has incorporated the National Guard into her spiel, using the takeover as a civics lesson on DC politics. How residents pay federal taxes, but do not have representation in Congress. This is what life is like as a DC resident, Arcaniega will tell them. Andrew Van Dam contributed to this report.